Hi guys, what is going on, and welcome back to another video on the Conqueror's Blade. So, it's fair to say that I'm not always the greatest player in this game. I make quite a lot of mistakes, and I don't always get on with every unit. And the main unit that I've never really got on with, Shield Maidens. Since they were released in Season 7, I have never liked them, never been able to really get them to work for me, and never really found a use for them. But a couple of weeks ago, Alan released a video covering them and his experience with them, and really broke down how he's using them. Really good video. I'll link to it in the description down below, so you can go and check it out. Well worth watching. And my god, it's completely changed how I see them and how I play them. Really has revolutionised the unit. This is combined with, they also got a little bit of a buff a couple of months ago, so it all sort of fits together. But with these changes, it really seems to make them work for me, and actually I'm now genuinely really enjoying them. So it all centres around Cover Commander, realistically. I mean, I've even gone far more simple than Alan does in his video, just using them effectively like a sort of glorified Prefecture Guard. But if you, while you're in Spear mode, put them in Cover Commander, and then switch from Spears to Swords, they stay in Cover Commander. It stays activated. So that means you can then use them in Sword mode on Cover Commander. And that is here the key. So I'm basically not using the charge. I'm certainly never using the triple strike. Mostly using them in the Cover Commander. Occasionally using Guardian to give the allied team that sort of defensive buff. And you can put them into like a shield wall or the Shilton formation to deal with cavalry. Or at least not take damage from cavalry. But mostly I'm just using them in that Cover Commander Sword mode, and they are super aggressive, and they have an active block. So for that reason, I'm down the bottom veterancy line. This is predominantly the Sword line. We get some pretty interesting buffs along with it. So that makes it the much better veterancy line, if this is how you're going to use them. In terms of doctrines, we have got the 2 blocks to increase the block, plus the block recovery increase. That's because when they're in Cover Commander in Sword mode, they keep their block up. They've basically got an active block. So giving them increased block is well worthwhile. Add on to that, I've thrown in a little bit of a Siege Fighter and a Breakthrough Doctrine, just to try and bump their damage up. That extra sort of 10 or 15% can really make a difference. And then finally, we have got a Guardian Doctrine. I think realistically I could actually probably swap this out for either something like a bit of damage reduction maybe, or possibly even like a slashing damage or a slashing AP damage increase for when they're in Sword mode. But anyway, that's all we've got to say about them. Let's just hop into some battles with them, see if we can make them work, see if I can kind of show you why I have suddenly started enjoying these Shield Maidens. So we kick things off on a little bit of Dessau Fort. Been trying to decide if I wanted to get involved in this Siege Tower fight, and I decided, yeah, let's go for it. Pull them onto Cover Commander. You see there, I switched them onto the Sword mode, and they're staying in Cover Commander. And then I'm just going, well, really quite aggressive, pushing straight in, particularly as I think those Trebs landing behind me, so I was really trying to push hard to get out of that range. 20 kills, 25 kills, almost instantly. Cuts through the remaining units really effectively. You see there, I then basically used their Shilton formation to move them around, because I didn't want them to go down the tower. As soon as you do that, it is important to switch back to Spear mode, because you cannot reactivate Cover Commander otherwise. Since the rest of the team was happily pushing down the tower, I wanted to give them a bit of a buff with the Guardian, which will increase our teammates' defences, but I didn't want to go down the tower because there's going to be things like those Trebs, which just landed. But while we were doing that, we got pressured by the enemy team. I activate Cover Commander, put back into Sword mode. Couldn't quite decide where I wanted to go, but as the friendly team pushed in behind, I just decided to go straight from the front. And look, these Palace Guards just get butchered along with the enemy hero as we just pull straight through and just kill everything, including the enemy short sword there, which just makes them such an amazing unit. But the key you'll notice, I'm not charging and I'm not using their strikes ability, because that will deactivate the Cover Commander, and that's the key. But anyway, next clip, on to a little bit of Whiteout Fort. Really early on, enemy charged through the main gate. Really strange, didn't expect it. But fine, I can work with that. Straight on Cover Commander, straight on Sword mode, and let's get stuck in. And look how quickly we munch these enemy heroes. Dead, 2 down, along with the rest of the unit. 20 kills. It's just amazing how much damage they do. And you see, as soon as I use the move the unit with X, I'm switching back to the spear mode, because then I can reactivate cover commander and go back to swords if I want to. So it's probably a good time to point out while the unit's going back to the supply point that when you activate sword mode, so when you change from spear into sword mode, they do like a bit of burst damage at that sort of moment of change. So if you've got just an enemy hero on you and you want to go from spear to sword, it often sort of insta-kills the enemy hero. I suppose the flip downside is that when you engage sort of enemy units in combat, then you get that second or two for the change to go through, so it's kind of a bit of a toss-up. I normally find myself changing to sword mode before I get into combat. But that's partly as well because, well, if you've watched my videos for any length of time, you know when lots of things are going on, I have a bit of a tendency to end up pressing the wrong button, and if I don't activate swords before I get into combat, I'll probably end up turning off cover commander or something utterly useless like that. So I just prefer to be in the correct situation beforehand. But anyway, the enemies, looks like they were having a little bit of a gander at this siege tower, but there wasn't really all that much starting to push up. You know, they've got some enemy archers at the bottom, which, you know, I don't really want to get involved with, but it didn't look like any of the enemy was really pushing too hard on the other side. My teammate said that they're not really making any progress up that way, and there's only one or two guys having a little play around at the gate. Not quite sure what that short sword was trying to do, but you couldn't get any cap on, that's for certain. So I'm kind of a bit stuck about where I want to go. But by the time I've sort of had a little bit of a look around, it looks like the enemy is starting to mount up a little bit more aggressively on this siege tower now. And we see some enemy grey hairs. Well, when they're starting to be knocked around a bit, they're getting jabs thrown at them. They look like a prime target to me. So go straight on with the cover commander, swords on, go back to get the interrupt on the grey hairs, enemy hero down, straight through the grey hairs. We've got javelins. Luckily to not get hit too much there, and I just want to pull the unit through. That's why I'm being so aggressive. And look how much damage and how many kills we're getting. Absolutely just slaughtering everything on the siege tower. And this time I wasn't going to give up, and I just keep pushing down, pushing down. And we get Trebs behind, so we're doomed there. You might think, oh, berserkers, they'll be the end of us. This unit absolutely munches berserkers. They are not a problem, even in rage mode, just doesn't do enough damage. And we can cut through them relatively convincingly. But by that point, the time we're up to over 80 kills, decided, yeah, okay, now's the time to get out of here. Let's get back and let's get over to the supply point. And finally, finish up on a little bit of Conqueror's City, a map that, thankfully, we don't see all that often, but we have got now. The enemy pushing up the stairs. I was trying to decide where I want to make the engagement. As those Landschnicks go in, I decide to go in as well, into the back of the Axe Raiders, pulling the unit through. It does get a little bit confusing as to what exactly is going on here, because it just turned into just kind of a complete melee. We do take a bit of damage, but the unit actually largely stays in one piece as we push through. I decide that the enemy is starting to come up from behind, and this is what I wanted to show you, the berserkers. Berserkers are just not a problem for this unit, and that is such a nice thing. Look how quickly we cut through these berserkers. Enemy hero dead, and the last couple of berserkers go down. They are really not a problem, Shield Maidens, because of the cover commander, because they can apply so much burst damage to an individual unit in such a short space of time. It just makes them brutally effective. Anyway, I decide, well, might as well run the guns. Feel always slightly bad killing Rattans, since they're a unit that I do kind of like. But we're going for it, and we're going down the stairs, pushing on, just trying to get what kills we can. As we're around the corner, we do unfortunately get hit a bit by some of these Huskars, but they decide to make the pullback. And I decide I also don't really want to play this game. Fighting on the stairs, they can Trevor's quite easily there, and there was quite a lot of stuff around that corner. So I call it quits, pulling the unit back up, move them back into spear mode so I get cover commander availability, and come back up to the top because we've got enemies starting to push at the B point. I go over onto shield wall mode because we've got a few cav kicking around, so just to lock up, protect the unit down. But basically don't take damage, at least frontally, when they're in this sort of shield wall mode from enemy cav. Could have probably just ran them around and cover commander, really. But the enemy's already back and pushing on that back point. I'm thinking, I would like to get involved in that, but there's, what, 4 or 5 enemy heroes, and I'm the only one looking about going in that direction. Wait to see if any of the team is going to come with us. Get a few guys starting to apply some pressure on, which causes the enemy to back off, and now I'm much more interested, because mostly I want to get back and heal up at the supply, but I also wanted to see if the team was struggling, which we're not really, Shame I missed that poleaxe. That was not such a good move, but it does get me over to the supply point. Some friendly coconut throwers. Have a little pop, but we can get to the supply and get ourselves healed up. Once healed, it is back into the fray. Go straight back onto cover commander mode, pulling straight out because we've got enemies starting to come up. I go onto the sword mode and advance and start to pull through here. But we've got quite a few enemies actually pushing and currently capping the main B point. So I circumvent the bulk of the enemies at the top of that stairs since our team is dealing with them. And I'm trying to decide how I want to approach this fight. I'm kind of thinking that we're going to have a real hard time getting in there, particularly solo. And I didn't really want to just sort of suicide. But actually, I was just being a bit of a coward. A lot of the team also started pushing, so I go in. Again, berserkers go down easily. Then we get hit by some of these grey hairs. Trying to get around the back, unfortunately that maul disrupts me. I'm getting in, but they're both units charged, and now it's just a bit of a melee of grey hairs. And look how quickly we cut them down now we get through their block. Bob, and that is basically both stacks of grey hairs dead. There goes the maul, and we can push through and completely clear the point. They just fight so effectively in that cover commander. Fortunately, we do lose a chunk of the unit, and I've not got a lot of health. And so as I kind of push around a little bit more, start to get a little bit confident, and then we get hit by a treb. Oh, that longsword absolutely played that amazingly because he baited us back into the treb strike. He did a really good job, and then I get myself killed, and thus ends the unit. Really well played by that longsword, baiting me into that treb strike. Damn you. But anyway, I've been having an awful lot of fun playing this unit. Always hated them, and it's been an absolute blast to be able to play them and actually enjoy them. So yeah, I would certainly recommend checking them out. For me, it's all about that sword mode cover commander now. That's what makes them enjoyable. But if you have enjoyed the video, do let me know what you think in the comments down below. I'll post a link to Alan's original video, which got me to check this unit back out, so do go and check that out as well. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you all on the next one.